Thank you, Brent. I appreciate that so much. Man, I'm honored to be here. I'm a huge fan of Brent Fielder's and what he and the Kathy family are doing. It's just phenomenal. I want to say thank you to Jeff Schinnerbarger. Jeff's a wonderful example that all Jeffs are really cool and handsome, so thank you, Jeff, for that. That's awesome. So let me dive in. I'm so honored to be here, and I hope this is helpful. But so I'm only going to ask you to do one thing today, okay? So one crowd participation moment, and this is it. And if this is true, I want you to raise your hand. You can even do this. That's fine. And if those of you that are watching online, I want you to let Latasha know. You can raise your hand, maybe a thumbs up or thumbs down, okay? That's good. All right, so here's my question. How many of you would say that when it comes to your vision, the vision of what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to make happen in your communities, that, as Brent said, you want to help change the world, how many of you would say that your vision is here and your resources are here? Can I see? Oh. And everybody said amen. Okay, that's awesome. All right, how are we doing online, Latasha? Everybody give me thumbs up? Okay. Well, that's kind of what I thought. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this little idea of closing the gap between vision and resources. Closing the gap between vision and resources. All right, so, and here, I've got some good news for you. And here's the good news. If your vision currently exceeds your resources, you're actually on the right track. So let me say that again. If your vision currently exceeds your resources, you're on the right track. Now, here's what I think you're probably thinking. Jeff, it doesn't feel like I'm on the right track, right? All right. So let me explain to you real quickly why you're actually on the right track. Because the opposite of this is actually terrible. There are organizations that the opposite of this has happened. Their resources are here and their vision is here. And you know what happens when your resources are here and your vision is here? The organization is dying. So what you've decided today is that's not going to be my story. My vision is here and my resources are here. Now, that's the good news, but here's the challenging news. As leaders, here's what we're called to do. We're called to close the gap, right? Now, here's what I've discovered if you have a compelling vision. And many of you have already experienced this. In fact, if you're starting out, I think my hope is that you're going to experience this as well. That when you close the gap, when your vision is here, and you close the gap, guess what happens? The vision goes up, okay? Isn't it amazing how that works, all right? So it's kind of a constant tension, all right? But if your vision is here and your resources are here, congratulations, that's awesome. But what I want to do in our few minutes together is I want to show you how you close the gap. How do you close the gap? And one of the ways that you close the gap is to understand something that we're going to talk a little bit about, and that is when it comes to vision, vision is a team sport. Vision is a team sport. What do I mean by that? Well, many times in organizations, vision's like golf, and there's one person on the fairway and kind of knocking the ball down the fairway, and we're all just kind of following along. That's not how you close the gap with vision. If you have a compelling vision, if you've got a big vision, you can't play golf. Vision is like a football game. I got my man Timothy. He's sporting a Detroit Lions hoodie and hat, which shows you that you should always don't stop believing, keep going. We can make it happen. I told Timothy, I'm like, you know what? I'm so glad finally Detroit's good because now I can watch a football game on Thanksgiving Day that actually matters, okay? So don't stop believing. You got to have a bunch of people around you. So vision's like a football game. Yeah, there's a quarterback, but you have everybody on the field moving the vision down the road. And when you understand that, what you understand is that if you're going to close the gap between your vision and your resources, you got to have vision carriers. What do I mean by that? Well, here's and you know this, but here's one of the bottom lines I want to talk about today. That the more vision carriers you have, the more vision casters you have. The more vision carriers you have, the more vision casters you have. And what do I mean by vision carriers? Well, let's say I have a hot dog stand, and I wouldn't have a hot dog stand because I work for Chick-fil-A. But let's say I had a hot dog stand. And I were to tell you, you know what, Jeff's hot dog stand, it's awesome, it's amazing. You need to come to Jeff's hot dog stand, Timothy. You need to come from Detroit. You need to come down to my Jeff's hot dog stand. But then Timothy comes to Jeff's hot dog stand and doesn't have a good experience and puts that on Yelp. He's not a vision carrier for me. But if Timothy comes, has a great hot dog, a great customer experience, and he tells his friends about that, guess what he's done? He's now joined me on the field as a vision carrier. And the more vision carriers I have, the more vision casters I have. In 2003, only crazy people like me ever leave Chick-fil-A, but I left Chick-fil-A to help start a church in Atlanta called Buckhead Church. And when we had a receptionist there, Joanne Burns, and Joanne just lived the vision and lived the culture. I mean, when people would come in and she would welcome them, people would call, she would email people. And I was watching this one day in our lobby area, and I said, Joanne, you're one of the best vision casters we have in our entire staff. And she said, no, I don't like to get up on the stage and talk. That's not what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, no. That's a part of it. But every single one of us are vision casters in this organization. And if you're going to close the gap between your vision and your resources, you've got to invite vision carriers into your work. How many people are talking about your organization to their friends? How many people are posting online about what you're doing? You've got to have vision carriers. Let me give you a quick example. Maybe you've heard this question before. Hey, how'd you hear about us? How'd you hear about our hot dog stand? How'd you hear about our restaurant? How'd you hear about our church? How'd you hear about our nonprofit? And they list several options like TV, radio, billboard, social media, and other. And this is a great question to ask because in essence what they're trying to ask is how do I create more vision carriers for my organization so that I can close the gap between vision and resources? But there's one box that gets checked more than any other box, and it drives marketing people like me crazy. That's right. It's the other box. It's the other box, right? And we all know what this is. The other box is the most powerful form of growth any organization will receive. It's called positive word-of-mouth advertising. And when people talk about your organization, here's what happens. You create vision carriers, and the more vision carriers you have, the more vision casters you have. And when that happens, people help you. Vision's a team sport. They help close the gap between your vision and resources. So how do you do that? How do you create vision carriers? Well, I'm so glad you asked. That's what we're talking about today, all right? Now, before I tell you that, you have to understand that there are 3 levels of buy-in right now in your organization when it comes to your vision. It's true for all of you, right? And we don't need to be shy about this reality, but this is a reality for every single organization, business and nonprofit. By the way, I spend a lot of time in the business world. There's a lot that the business world can learn from you, by the way. Watch this. The business world is trying to talk like the nonprofit world. Watch how much they're talking about purpose and meaning because they've understood this in the business world, that purpose and profit travel together, right? Okay, so when it comes to this, you have to understand the 3 levels of buy-in, all right? So there are 3 levels of buy-in. The first level of buy-in is people benefit from your vision. Maybe they come to your organization, their families is impacted. If there's a church here today, they bring their kids, for an hour. They get free babysitting, right, for an hour. That's awesome. So they benefit from it. That's level 1. Level 2 is they contribute comfortably to it. What do I mean by that? Well, they get to the end of the year and they notice they got a few dollars left, so they maybe kind of tip you a little bit at the end of the year, right? So they're not going out of their way. There's not a lot of sacrifice here, but we kind of sort of believe in what you're doing, so we'll contribute comfortably, but there's no sacrifice here. There's no vision carrying here. I'll contribute though, but I can kind of contribute comfortably. And then the third level is simply this. They help carry the vision. It becomes a part of their life. They volunteer. They tell their friends, oh, can I tell you about this organization and what it's doing in our community? You have to understand them. So let me tell you what one of your roles is as a leader. Your role as a leader is to take the people on level 1 and 2 and move them to level 3. Let me say that again. Your role as a leader, my role as a leader is to take people in level 1 and level 2 and move them to level 3. And when you do that, you create more vision carriers. And the more vision carriers you have, the more vision casters you have. And the more vision casters you have, guess what happens? You close the gap between your vision and your resources. It's that simple, and it's that hard. Okay, Jeff, how do we do this? All right, so here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to give you 2 things to think about. This is not an exhaustive list, but from someone who's lived in your world. Like I mentioned, I lived in the business world for a while, but I'm a preacher's kid. I grew up in the church. I promised myself that I would never, ever, ever work at a church. And so I worked at a church for 18 years. Okay, so but I've practiced So I'm just not up here going, this is what I'm telling you, I've practiced this. I've seen this work, okay? So I'm going to give you a vision practice and 2 vision questions. A vision practice and 2 vision questions. What do I mean by that? By a vision practice. Well, I want to give you something that I would encourage you to do on a regular basis, And then, when you understand this, I'm going to give you 2 questions. And I want these 2 questions to bother you in a really good way, okay? And I want you to hold on to these questions, all right? And you got to live with these questions, all right? So the first is a vision practice. And the vision practice is simply what I call take a vision inventory. Take a vision inventory. What is a vision inventory? It's when, and you can do this online. By the way, how are we doing online, Latasha? Everybody good? All right, awesome. So you can do this online or you can walk around, but I prefer it actually walking around and going, hey, so I have a question. When it comes to our organization, what do you think we want to be known for? And just be quiet. Hey, when it comes to what we're trying to do, I'm just curious, how do you describe what we're doing? What do we want to be known for here? And then I just want you to listen. And it's not a pop quiz. You're not trying to, if you've got a team or a volunteer or a board, this is a really good thing to ask a board. Hey, what do you think we want to be known for? And what they say next will give you an indication of where the gap is between your vision and your resources. Because when a leader says, hey, what do you think we want to be known for to their team or to their board or their people they're trying to, to get on board with the vision, when you have them go, well, I think the warning light on your dashboard of the organization should be blinking. And it can't be a 17-paragraph mission statement that we came up with on a retreat 12 years ago that nobody can recite or remember. Remember, vision is language. Yes, it's a compelling view of the future, but if people can't say it, the vision doesn't become portable. And if the vision's not memorable and portable, it's dead. What is the language? When you take a vision inventory, what you're trying to listen for is what is the language of the organization? What is the language of the organization? And can they repeat it? What's an example of a vision inventory? What's an example of vision language? Well, let me pull one from the business world. Many of you have probably bought shoes from Zappos. They're an online shoe retailer. If you were to, by the way, this is a for-profit business, but watch how they're trying to talk like you. Watch how they're trying to talk like a nonprofit. If you were to ask Zappos, hey, what do you want to be known for? What's your vision? Here's what they would say. 2 words, by the way, 2 words. Deliver happiness. That's what we want to be known for. Deliver happiness. Now, that sounds nice, sweet, cute, and pretty, but did that really work? Absolutely. In their first 10 years of existence, they went from 0 sales to $1 billion in sales in 10 years. They were recently bought by Amazon, like we all will be one day. But I had the opportunity a few years ago to go out to their corporate offices out in Vegas. And everywhere you went, y'all, everywhere. Now, pause. Vision inventory. What do we want to be known for? What's the language? And then it has to be portable. And then you have to say it over and over. And here's a leadership principle that the nonprofit world has to understand. Leaders are repeaters. Leaders are repeaters. You have to say it over and over and over again. So I'm walking around Zappos, and everywhere I went, deliver happiness, deliver happiness. People wearing t-shirts, deliver happiness. Everywhere. I went into the restroom. There's a huge sign that says deliver happiness, which was admittedly a little weird. But even in the restroom, they're staying on message. And if you want to close the gap between your vision and your resources, here are the questions. And these are actually bonus questions for no additional charge. All right, these are some questions that I want to bother you. Is our vision memorable? Is our vision repeatable? And is our vision visible? You've got to make the vision visible. And is it memorable? Deliver happiness. Can people, 8 people down from you, recite it? And is it repeatable? One of the reasons that our vision is here and our resources are here is because we don't have good answers to these questions. And by the way, I'm making this sound so simple. This is really, really hard work. This is really, really hard work, but it's necessary work. And when you have the language, and when is memorable and repeatable, here's what you have to understand. You got to stay on message, and here's why. Vision, rarely repeated, is quickly forgotten. Vision, rarely repeated, is quickly forgotten. So you got to do a vision inventory. Hey, what do we want to be known for? Is this memorable? Is this portable? Are we making it visible? What do you think we want to be known for? And then listen. And when you get different answers or you get some stares like, I don't really know, that's okay. You just got work to do, all right? So that's vision inventory. Here are the 2 vision questions that I want to leave with you today. And I actually learned this question from Chick-fil-A many, many years ago when I was there in marketing. And this is a question when I helped launch Gwinnett Church. I created a little sticker for everyone's laptop, and I put it on their laptop, or asked them to put it on their laptop, because I wanted this to bother them. And here was the question. What did I do today to cast vision for our organization? And here, there's a very important word in this question. What do y'all think that important word is? Today. What did I do today? Not last week, not last quarter, not what I'm going to do for the Christmas time area. What did I do today to cast vision for our organization? It could be a thank you note. It could be a phone call. It could be meeting with a donor. It could be a social media post. But if I go through the day and I didn't do anything to cast vision for our organization, the gap got a little bit bigger. But it can't reside on me. It can't reside or totally fall on the leader. I need help. So I wanted everyone around me to cast vision for our organization. This is what I told our church staff. And by the way, this may sound like I'm a really mean guy. Maybe I am. I think I'm nice, okay? But I would say, hey, just so you know, there's no such thing as budget cuts around here. It's we didn't raise enough money. That's what it is. So when you come in and you're concerned about, is our budget being cut? Well, okay, you're a fundraiser. We're all fundraisers here. What did you do today to cast vision for our organization? And I said, you've got to go out and you've got to find stories for me that I can share with our church and organization. One time we had this little boy, he was in the 2nd grade. He would come and bring $1 every day. We had this little giving tree at the church. He would bring $1 to the little giving area. And so the person over this, our elementary school ministry, came up and said, hey, there's this little young man, young boy, he's Josh. He gives $1 every Sunday. Well, could you use this story to tell it to the church? And I'm like, if I can't use this story, I need to quit, okay? So I get up the next Sunday, he's over here, his family, and imagine this over there, and I'm like, and so I just layered on. I've never done this before, but I just want to tell you, I'm so inspired. We have one of our highest percentage givers in our church, all right? Because he got paid $10 every week for his allowance. He gives $1 to the church, right? So I'm like, and I know you may send me an email, that's okay, but I'm telling you, I just want you to know this guy is so generous. I layered up and I said, so come welcome Josh. So he walks up on the stage, he's about this tall, right? Well, that was an example of someone in our other ministry area going, what did I do today? Oh, there's Josh. Could you use this story? How many people in your world are doing this for you? The more vision carriers you have, the more vision casters you have. So what did I do today to cast vision for our organization? And here's what we have to understand when it comes to vision. Vision is never urgent until it's too late. Vision's never urgent until it's too late. Okay, now the vision's up here and the resources are way down here. Vision is a daily thing. It's not an event. I love events. This is what I do. Many years, this is what I do. I love events. Okay, it's awesome. That's great. It's a part. You could check this off and say, this is what I did today. But vision is daily. Okay, so what did I do today to cast vision for our organization? The final question I'm going to give you is one of the questions that I used to help raise millions of dollars over the last several years to help build 4 church buildings in Atlanta. And I'm not a natural fundraiser, okay? But when I began to understand, here's what I began to understand. that my responsibility as a fundraiser, as a leader, is to help shrink the gap between vision and resources. But my responsibility is to make the ask. It's their responsibility to provide the answer. And what I began, maybe you can relate to this, early on in my years as a fundraiser, I would talk myself out of asking them because I would go, oh, they're not going to say yes. So what I would do, and this, I began to understand this is arrogance on my part. I would answer for them before ever asking them. That's a terrible fundraising strategy. So you know what I started doing? I just started asking. And whatever they said, hey, that's their responsibility. My responsibility is to make the ask. So I imagine this. I'm in meetings like this or coffee shop or Chick-fil-A and drinking coffee and say, hey, here's my vision. I grew up in Gwinnett County. I went to Norcross High School. My wife went to high school at Greater Atlanta Christian. And there are more high school students in Gwinnett County in the top 10 than any other high school in the state of Georgia. Imagine if we could build a church for these high schools. So layer all this. And here's my vision. So I'd cast this vision. And then I would pause. And I would ask them this question, which I found to be the best fundraising question, at least from one person's opinion. And that is, will you help me? Will you help me? And here's what you have to do. You have to be quiet after this. You have to be okay with the awkward silence on the other side of the table. Don't jump in. Don't go, oh, but you don't have to if you don't want to. No. Will you help me? Quiet. And you're going to get one of three answers. At least I did. Yes, no, or I'll pray about it, which is also no. That's okay. My responsibility is to make the ask. Their responsibility is to provide the answer. And when you get those mixed up, here's what happens. You stop asking because you get beat up. And let me just tell you, you're going to get more no's than yeses. But if you're in sales, if you've ever been in sales, the difference between a one person that can win in sales and not is when they get a no, they go, oh, I'm one person closer to a yes. That's what you have to understand. But what freed me up is my responsibility is to make the ask. What did I do today to cast vision for our church? I sat down at a coffee shop and I asked them for money. That's one thing I did, okay? But here's what happens, and I'm almost done. Here's what happens if you're going to do this. You're going to get a lot of no's. So your goal, and this is one of the things I love that Brent and Chick-fil-A is doing, is they're trying to make sure that you remain inspired. And you know what was a telltale sign to me on whether or not my inspiration as I got no's? And you know, you think, have you ever wondered, like, when you're fundraising, you're like, these people will definitely say yes, and they say no. And then you're like, these people will definitely say no, and they say yes. I mean, you just never know, right? So when it comes to this, I just had to say, I can tell if I'm remaining inspired by how frequently I am asking big. And so here's what I want to leave you with. I want you to remain inspired. Getting inspired requires a moment. I'm all for getting inspired. But if in the nonprofit world, you are going to have a plan for remaining inspired. I mean, I love Brent's vision for this. I love Chick-fil-A's vision for this, that, hey, we want to help you remain inspired, but at the end of the day, it's going to be on you. So how are you going to remain inspired? Well, if you're shying away from asking big, hey, I want you to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and maybe text someone today and go, hey, can we meet on Monday? Because I want to share the vision of what we're doing, maybe for the 12th time, right? So you know what I've decided to do? I've decided I'm going to go out swinging. I'm going to ask big. What is asking big? Well, a few years ago, I read Warren Buffett's autobiography. You know, depending on how the stock market does today, the richest man in the world. And I internet stalked him on the internet, and I said, Mr. Buffett, this is a few years ago when I was a pastor. I loved your autobiography. I'd love to come out to Omaha and meet with you. I have 3 questions. I'm not asking you for money. This is not a fundraising pitch, but I would love to come out and have 3 follow-up questions. Asking big. I get a letter back from Warren Buffett, the richest man in the world. It says, "Dear Jeff, no." But I have a letter from Warren Buffett and you don't. Because you didn't ask him, right? So I'm telling you, when I'm up here saying, swing for the fences, ask big, you're going to get a lot of no's. But for me internally, it just goes, hey, are you remaining inspired? So a few years ago, my daughter graduated from high school. And my kids grew up watching Pixar movies, Toy Story and all this movies stuff. And I had met Ed Catmull, the COO of Pixar, a few years ago. We spoke at a conference together. And so I told my daughter, oh, honey, you graduated from high school. Let's go, celebrate. She goes, Dad, I'd love to go to San Francisco. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Love San Francisco. So that's when I remembered, oh, Pixar, the movie studio. They're out there. And do y'all remember DVDs? Y'all are a young crowd. Y'all don't probably remember DVDs. Well, in Monsters, Inc., they had a bonus DVD, and the bonus DVD gave you a tour of the Pixar offices. And for whatever reason, my little kids at the time just loved watching the bonus DVD of the Pixar offices. So I thought, I'm going to ask Ed Catmull to give my family a private tour of the Pixar offices when we're out there celebrating my daughter's high school graduation. So I'm writing this letter to Ed Catmull. I internet stalked, there's the Pixar offices. I had a picture when we were together speaking at that conference. Mr. Catmull, you probably don't remember me. My Jeff, here's our picture, hashtag stalker. My daughter graduated from high school, huge Pixar fans. Can we get a private tour when we're out there of the Pixar offices, Monsters, Inc., all that kind of stuff? So I'm writing this letter. And there's another voice in my head. By the way, do you talk to yourself? Good. This is an honest crowd, Brent and Jeff. I love this. So there's another voice. Over here, I'm thinking, this is awesome. There's another voice in my head. And that other voice is going, don't you have anything better to do with your time? There's not a chance this happens. Do you know how expensive a postage stamp is nowadays? It's not even going to get to him. What are you doing? Over here, I'm thinking, this is awesome. Over here, I'm thinking, not a chance. Hey, everyone, welcome to every single day of your life. And you have a choice. Which voice are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to this voice and remain inspired and ask big, or you're going to listen to this voice? Now, this voice is trying to protect you from Warren Buffett rejecting you, okay? But you have a choice. So, kept writing, put the letter, and mailed it. And I didn't hear back from Pixar for 4 months. Then one day I get a call from Oakland, California. I don't know anybody from Oakland, California. And I'm told, don't answer your phone if you don't know who's calling. That's how they get your social security number, all right? So I hit decline. Later that night, I have a voicemail from Wendy, believe it or not. My wife is Wendy, but this is Wendy from Oakland, California. Mr. Henderson, we got your letter. We'd love to give you a tour. Just call us this week and we'll set it up. I just looked at my phone and said, shut up, it works. Fast forward, we drive up to the iconic Pixar gates that Steve Jobs personally designed. I rolled down the window to the security guard in our rental car and said, hello, we're the Hendersons from Swanee, Georgia for our tour. Silence. He has no expression, right? I'm like, if this doesn't happen, my kids will never let me hear the end of it because I've been building this up, right? Like, remember when Dad got us arrested at Pixar? That was awesome. So he goes, welcome, Henderson family from Swanee, Georgia. They gave us these badges that said strangers from the outside. It was awesome. It was amazing. They showed us where Steve Jobs' office was. He had passed away a couple years before this. They showed us their Academy Awards. They did all this stuff. They showed us this backstage thing that was on Monsters, Inc. They even bought us lunch. I mean, are you kidding me? But one of my favorite moments was the tour guy goes, okay, we don't, I guess we're just nice, sweet people from Georgia. He goes, we'll never do this, but I'm going to let you actually go backstage and let you see them making a film right now. We had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which says, if you tell somebody about this movie before it comes out, we can kill you, okay? So that was a little alarming, but we did. It was the movie Coco. I don't know if you saw that movie, Coco. We actually got to see them. It was amazing, but my favorite moment, I can still see this in my mind's eye, is we were walking out in the Pixar office, and my daughter says, hey, Dad, come here. I said, yeah. She looks around. The Pixar office's Academy Awards are right here. She goes, Dad, this is so cool. And I go back to that moment, writing that letter, and I came this close to putting my pen down. Don't listen to that voice. You're going to be told no. You're just one question closer to yes. keep asking big and ask people to join you. And when you do that, you'll create more vision carriers. And when you create more vision carriers, you'll create more vision casters, and you'll shrink the gap between your vision and resources. But don't be surprised when this happens more. That's why we need you to keep doing what you're doing. So Jeff, how do you remain inspired? Lots of ways. But one of the ways I remain inspired is I look at this photo quite a bit. This is a reminder, keep asking big. So if your vision is here and your resources are here, congratulations, you're a fantastic leader. Let's just get to work. Thank you.